What is up, everyone? Welcome to this week's Amazing Race recap, episode 5 of the Amazing Race 34 on Amazing Reviews. Joining me tonight is the one, the only Calvert. Calvert, what's up?
What's going on, everybody? Meh.
Well, unfortunately, Goldberg will not be joining us tonight. He is actually traveling back home. He went to the Penn State college football game over the weekend in the whiteout. So he is traveling back home. He should be back with us next week, but it's me and Calvert riding solo this week. Calvert, what'd you think of episode 5?
Thought it was okay. I actually thought this was probably like the weakest of the episodes so far, just because the task looked very, 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 very simple this week to me.
Yeah, I think they were kind of simple. I think it was cool that they went to Jordan, but for some reason, it feels like them taking the charter plane is taking away from something, and I don't know what it is. Like maybe just the traveling aspect to an extent, because they're all on the same flight. But I don't know. Does it seem like that to you?
I don't really like. I didn't like this last year. I don't like it so far this year. The fact that they have 3 teams leaving all at once they land at wherever they're landing, I don't like that. At least have the advantage of if you finish first, you get to leave first. Okay, you can all get on the same plane.
Right.
But,
yep.
Have the team that won first start first. That's the whole point of finishing first.
Yeah.
I just like that. I mean, okay, cool. You finally got your own private jet. It only took you 34 seasons to get that, and it took a worldwide pandemic for it to happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just weird. I don't like that. That's probably one of the things if this continues, I'm not going to like as this progresses, as this goes on into a possible season 35, 36, and so on. So.
Right. Yeah. I wonder how long this is going to go on for. And I don't know. I think that would, if you're on this race and you're racing and you get, well, we'll talk about that later. I don't want to jump ahead, but I agree with you. I think the plane, I would, hopefully it's just a temporary thing. I don't want it to be a permanent thing. So that's my biggest complaint with this. Hopefully this is maybe one more season of the plane, but if it means we have to take the plane over not having Amazing Race, then I guess we'll have to take the plane. But still, it's like still not working clearly, as you're going to see in the, we're going to talk about it later. But
right.
So, anyways, let's kind of go over this episode here. So they went to Jordan this week. It's the first time that they ever went to Jordan, and the first thing they got to do was they got to ride on a train. Got to take a train ride. They boarded the Ottoman Empire era steam train that took them into the desert, where they watched a scene reminiscent of Lawrence of Arabia before receiving their next clue. Teams then began the leg based on the order that they finished the previous leg. The first group of 2 teams departed at 8 a.m. The second group of 3 teams departed at 8:15 a.m. And the third group of 4 teams departed at 8:30 a.m. So that led us to this week's roadblock, which was one team member. This was at the Aqaba Governorate, the Wadi Rum Desert. One team member had to use a metal detector to search a crash site movie set for a piece of spaceship debris that listed the location of their next clue, which was Petra. This was a very, very simple roadblock. The only thing that kind of made this tougher was if you were one of the last teams, you had to find the hardest one. So if you didn't find it early, you were kind of screwed, as we kind of saw. Your thoughts, Calvert?
It seemed to me like they practically threw every single one of them into the middle, though. All the Petra signs into the middle. Now, granted, didn't, but that's what it looked like, because that's all you pretty much had to do. Okay, it's in the middle. And like that's the thing too. Like it was laughable. Like some people were finding cans, and some people were finding other things that weren't the sign that said Petra, which was insane to me. And you didn't even have to dig that hard. It was just it's like two little digs. So you take your shovel and you dig, and there's the sign, and you show it to the guy, and it says, "Oh, look, it says Petra." You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to put a puzzle together or anything. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. You don't have to put a puzzle together or anything. It just says Petra. You take the sign and you go to Petra. How simple can that be? That's got to be one of the easy tasks we've had, at least in recent memory, for the Amazing Race. But as we can know, some of those teams struggled with it, and especially towards your point, towards the back row. But even still, that just goes to show that they weren't paying attention to detail. Because, and of course, the girls figured it out, and the girls were standing some, 400, 500 feet away. And they could figure it out. The guys had trouble. So
yes, I think it was like if you were in the first pack, obviously it would have been pretty easy for you to find this. Then the lesser Petra signs there were, the harder it was going to get. But for that opening first group, I would say, I mean, come on, like just start walking quick. Some of these people are just walking like so slow, and it's like it shouldn't be hard to cover ground. I mean, it's not like you have to think about anything.
You're by the water. Like I could have seen that. Like if you're by the water, okay, I could buy that. But you're in sand. There's no water anywhere near you.
Yeah, like, there was nothing.
That's it. Like, and it's a metal detector. So like, it's not like one that you and I would use if we were trying to find gold or something at the beach. It's not like that. It's just and it went off like right away. So if I were doing this task, I would want, okay, maybe it's there. Like I didn't understand some of the teams that like, oh, I'm going to basically erase my tracks so that way I know where I went. That's not going to do you any good. Wind comes up.
Yeah. Well, that was Marcus, right?
Right.
Or
correct.
Michael, I believe. Michael might have did that, but he was kind of using that strategy. Right. But how about? I mean, I got to shoot on Derek here. I mean, the guy clearly is just as klutzy as he is cringy, because the guy fell face planted right into the sand. I mean, and I know Goldberg's not here, and I really wanted to bring that up to him, and he kind of knew it, and he texted me as the episode was going on that Derek X, we should say, did another cringy thing. Well, I think it's just klutzy. I mean, but I'm not surprised at all that he face planted right into the sand. So, Calvert, why don't you talk about your team at this task? I don't really remember too much what they did, but I know they did it pretty quickly.
They did it fairly quickly, yeah. It pretty much just took Luis a little bit to kind of just figure out, okay, this is how the metal detector works. And like he pretty much found it almost instantaneously. That's why I was like, I mean, I wish they would have timed it, because it must have been like seriously 15 seconds, and he went, I wonder if this is it. Oh, cool, this is it. Like I didn't even have to dig. It was three little digs with the shovel, and he was done. Like, and that's the thing, like everybody, and that's the thing with that first group, is that everybody was generally finding it right away. Very, like almost instantaneously, like, hey, I got it, let's go.
Yeah. Do you think they should have made them like dig a little bit more, like maybe bury it a little further down?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah. Because that's the thing. Like, we didn't exactly know what that meant by finding the sign originally. When we wrote the preview last week. Yeah. But like, at the end of the day, like, I mean, Derek could have probably tripped over it, to your point, and found it pretty that's how like, I don't know how far the producers buried it, but it wasn't that far at all. It didn't seem like it. Like, like if you're trying to plant a plant in your backyard, it's about that size. Like, it's not much.
Yeah. Like what, couple inches?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like also David and Aubrey, or especially David, was really, I guess, kept going in the same spots, but he kept finding the cans.
which was
Or it
last.
was at Lumumba. Lumumba too. Lumumba too kept
Yeah,
finding cans.
oh look, is
Yep.
this it? No. Like
Yeah.
and that goes back to like reading. But it even says in the clue. It says it will say Petra on it.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, that's once again they did not. Well, they didn't know that technically because wasn't
True.
Petra was the clue to go to their next
Right.
to go to the detour. So I guess they didn't know that, but I mean, I gotta shoot on like Linton here because he was walking slow, very slow, and then Sharik, who would not do tasks, she did one deep roadblock her whole time. I mean, I don't know how she can complain because he's the only reason they were even still in this race. And man, did they foil? But
Well, yeah,
I just
but that's the point though too. Like that's why it also took them the longest. But you would have thought, like, okay, if you're a Linton, okay, I'm going to go to the outer edge because at this point you don't exactly. It's the last one, so you're not
yes,
sure where it is,
yes,
right? But you've seen, and Sharik picked up on this. You've seen other teams go, oh, it's in the middle. So
right,
if I were Linton, okay, it's not on the edge. I'll check the middle. Why not? Because it might be there.
yeah.
But it
Yeah,
took.
and I thought he was just walking kind of
Yeah,
lethargic too.
yeah,
I know it's hot there,
very
so that
hot.
obviously
Very hot. Yeah.
played a factor. I get that, but there was no like urgency from them this
No.
episode. It was. I mean, we're going to talk about their really bad decision as
Oh,
well.
but
But jumping to my team, Will and Abby. I mean, Abby kind of struggled with it. She got in the first group, but she didn't end up leaving. I don't think until like I think they were in fifth or sixth when she left.
correct. Yep.
So she had some troubles with this. But for the most part, I mean, the big time struggle was obviously David Lumumba and Linton, that back half there. Everybody else seemed to kind of get this pretty quickly. So,
And like it took him. I mean, I don't know. It seemed like it took him anywhere between a half hour to 45 minutes
yeah,
to me.
yeah.
Just by eyeball guessing the clock. I wasn't paying attention to what time it was, but that's what it seemed like.
I also think too, like Sharik obviously gave up last episode, but why didn't she do this task? I don't know if she could have saw what was coming, but this would have been a great task for her to do. There's no thinking.
Yeah.
All there
Yeah.
is walking. I mean,
Well,
goodness gracious.
Well, we know from the week before though that walking isn't necessarily her favorite thing to do.
No, and it showed again.
Right. So
Yeah, it really did show again. They just wow. I've never seen a team just start off so well and then just basically do a Derek X face plant in the sand as quickly as Linden and Shriek have. I mean,
right.
that's kind of impressive when you think about it, how well they've raced the first couple legs, and then once they get to week 3, it's just like all the wheels fall off and they're not coming back on.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, is there really anything else to say? I thought this roadblock was kind of This is like just there.
Yep.
Yeah. So
that's how I kind of felt about this episode overall. That's why I'm going to give when we get to the
sure.
Or that's why it's going to get my problem the lowest rating of the year so far.
Yeah, and I kind of get it because I think obviously they're in Jordan. They're gonna do probably 2 weeks in here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just thinking like, well, why give us something really good, like give us something and now maybe they're saving it for this episode. I could obviously see that happening.
Sure.
And we got more drama going in the next episode because somebody's getting booted. So that's gonna be something to watch out for, and we'll get to it. I keep foreshadowing it, but we'll get there. So let's go over. We've talked enough about the pit stop, or not the pit stop, the roadblock. There's really not much to say anymore about it. It was just kind of a lame duck roadblock. But this leg's detour was a choice between Camel Caravan and Palace Puzzle. And Camel Caravan teams had to carry 4 bags of hay and water from a cistern to camels at a market in order to receive their next clue. And Palace Puzzle teams had to complete a slide puzzle of the Palace Tomb in order to receive their next clue. Calvert, what are you doing for this one? I think it's
it's the puzzle.
Easy.
It's the puzzle all day, every day, twice on Sunday. The fact that Marcus and Michael, this is pretty much the entire episode for me. The fact that Marcus and Michael even attempted this was stupid on their part. Now, what we didn't know at the time when they were doing it is that basically the 2 tasks were right next to each other.
Yes. But right next to each other. Yep.
Yeah. But when Marcus and Michael were doing it, and I don't know which one of them was bitching, but one of them was bitching right away.
Yes.
About how heavy the water was, and this is a pain in the ass. This is going to take forever, which is a typical American statement that we all say when it's freaking hot and nobody wants to do it. But every other team that went and did the puzzle went, screw that, I'm not doing that. That's going to take too much time. And sure enough, it took Marcus and Michael a while to do it because they were one of the only ones to do it because they were dumb. Now, it didn't cost them, but
right.
To me, this is the heart of the episode. If you want to be back up in first place, you do the simple task, and the simple task was doing the puzzle because the puzzle pieces moved, and the puzzle part that they were doing, which by the way they had to take the Petra part that they had and put it in the corner, which we didn't know that until towards the end. But it's easy. That's simple. You just move the parts. Even if you're crappy at puzzles, which I'm not a great puzzle person, but hell yeah, I'm doing that. I'd rather do that than feed the camels.
Yeah, no question. Well, not only that too, I think they were out in front, so I can kind of understand a little bit with them. But if they were so close to the other task, they could have easily just saw what was going on and been like, okay, we're gonna switch it up. But I'm guessing they just wanted to stay with Camel Caravan, but to them, first place is everything. So I'm surprised that they kind of kept with it and didn't switch over to the puzzle. And I get they want to do the physical tasks because that's their strength, but I think in this case, I don't think the puzzle was that hard. I know David and Aubrey made a mountain out of a molehill in this one,
but
yeah, but I don't know. I think Marcus and Michael obviously made the wrong choice there, and they probably should have switched at some point.
And figured it out. They were like, "Screw that, we're not doing that." They looked at the task and went, "We're not doing that. Let's go do the puzzle." Yeah, because remember they were like, "Okay, let's take a look here. Let's see." And then that's when the audience figured out that they were next to each other, that the 2 tasks were next to each other, and they went, "Forget that. We're going to do the puzzle." Which of course you are, except for one other team, which of course, by the way, I'll ruin this for you. Lynn and Sharik do this task. They do the camel test as well because why not? We're in last place. Why make up any ground at this point?
And that's the thing. I don't know. It seemed like it was a lot. It seemed like some teams had trouble even finding the detour,
which was insane.
It seemed like it was, they had to ask quite around, where do I go here?
The big freaking signs that have the letters on them with arrows, even. I was like, holy crap! They put arrows on them for you guys. Good God, you.
Yeah, they were having a lot of issues even finding the detour. Now it did seem like a longer walk, but still. Does anybody else stick out to you in the before we really kind of talk about Linton and Sharik and David and Aubrey? Was there anyone else that kind of, I don't know, stuck out to you?
Emily, a little bit.
Emily and Molly?
Just because it took them just a little bit for the puzzle, not much, but it was like they had to take a beat. They kind of had to look at it, and then they figured it out. But that's the thing. Like they eventually figured it out.
They
And
did. They did. I don't think it took them as long as David and Aubrey, but they definitely were struggling with it, which
yeah,
I was kind of surprised with. I thought those two would have, aced it pretty quickly, but no, it wasn't to be. We should also talk about, though. I mean, Lou, why don't you talk about your team? I mean, doing the
they
puzzle.
yeah they made the right choice. I think they just had. It seemed to me like the for some reason the top seemed to confuse everybody. The top part of the puzzle seemed to
Yeah.
confuse, which that didn't make sense to me because you're staring at what you pretty much have to put together. So that should be the easy part. Now, if it's me, I generally tend to do if it's a moving puzzle like this, I would do the bottom part first. Not everybody did that. Luis and Michelle didn't do that at the start. They were just kind of putting stuff together to kind of see what fit.
Yeah.
Which that kind of made me worried for about 2 seconds, just because it was so hot. But but yeah, I think that's it. And then like making sure that the corner piece was in the right spot, right? Because some people put it in the bottom, which was wrong. Some people put it at the top, which was right, which once again goes to show that nobody pays attention to the example, because there was an example right there for them to look at to go, okay, this is how it's supposed to look. Right?
I don't think David and Aubrey knew that, or like it didn't
No.
seem like they knew that.
Yeah.
Which was crazy to me. I don't know. Like they I don't know if from the way the episode made it look, it looked like they didn't know that they were supposed to stare at it right in front, or at least until like halfway when they started doing it. So it was almost like they were guessing.
Yeah, which is to be expected, especially if you're trying it first.
Yep.
Anybody, an 8-year-old doing a puzzle, okay, it's going to take him a little bit to figure it out. Okay, the middle piece goes here, the end piece goes here, the top piece goes to the left, the top piece goes to the right, and then try to figure out where the bottom piece goes.
Yes.
It tends to be the difficult part. I gave
yeah. No. Go ahead.
I gave everybody a little bit of grace, but like, after the if you didn't get it after the first try, like, okay, you're not going to change, right? Because the camel thing is going to take forever. This could have realistically taken about 20 minutes. Yes. I think once they're kind of moving all the pieces together, which for my team, it took about 10. I'll give them a pass. They were kind of figuring out. They eventually got it. It was no big deal. Like they didn't miss. It took them a little bit to kind of visually put it together, which that goes with a puzzle. Like you have to visually see it. So, and then moving parts and all that. So
correct. You know what this reminded me of? I mean, I know slide puzzles are very common, but this reminded me of those puzzles you used to play on the computers where you're like in a parking garage.
Yep.
And you had to move all the cars to get the car free. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
This was exactly what this was. And I mean, come on, this just can't take that long. I mean, it's going to take relatively pretty quick. I don't see even doing more than like 15 minutes on this thing.
Right.
But some teams, it did take a little longer. I do want to comment on Abby and Will, and maybe even Quentin and Maddie. They don't get a lot of screen time in these episodes. You ever notice that?
I do notice that. I noticed it this week because they really didn't get a whole lot.
No, they got like they hardly ever get those cutscenes when they're talking like after the fact. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see them. They'll like do a couple of their sound bites, but they will not show them. So I just do not understand why they're getting such limited screen time. I mean, maybe it's just because they're not saying anything that's worth TV or that's like for good ratings. I don't know. It's just weird to me how, they don't get a lot of screen time. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that feeling.
Yeah.
I get that feeling. They kind of not that they're not boring.
No.
They're not boring, but they're not saying anything. They're not arguing with each other. They're
correct.
Not,
because it's still a TV show,
Right.
At the end of
Right.
the day, so obviously they want to get some good stuff. So let's talk about a lot of teams passed some teams. Obviously, David and Aubrey. I mean, they were kind of late to begin with, but I mean, some of the like Emily and Molly struggled. Abby and Will were kind of able to pass them. Uh, Marcus and Michael, we talked about them. We talked about their kind of issue with just taking the wrong detour. Derek and Claire, I thought they ran a pretty good race. I mean, they made up a lot of ground. I mean, they had one of the biggest jumps this week. So the slump is over for them. We'll just say that. So the slump is over. Let's talk about Linton and Sharik because I think that's the big one here. They get to the detour finally after walking like a snail. Both of them were walking like snails. I mean, just terrible. And then they make the worst choice in doing the camel caravan. I have no idea why they did this. No clue. I don't know if they just. This was definitely not the task for them. The puzzle would have been so much better for them. I don't know how far behind they were from David and Aubrey. They may have not been that far behind. I don't know if we saw that they were very close to each other, but this was a very horrible choice. This easily sealed their fate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Aubrey and David missed 3 times with the puzzle, which I don't
if not more. If
I
not
don't
more.
I don't understand. And then I yelled at my TV screen and went, "What are you doing for Lynn and Shriek? You have to make up time. Okay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. You were the only ones left to get the Petra sign. So that tells you then that you are the only team left to decide which task you can do, and then you choose, well, let's do the harder of the two and have to rely on an animal, which has a mind of its own, to do what we're asking it to do. That sounds like a good idea. Let's sign up for that one."
Well, not only that, how much water do you got to put in that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's just.
And then
I don't know.
had to go get the food itself.
Yes.
So.
And they were walking slow to begin with.
Right, and going up and down steps. So let's say it's me and you, right? Let's say I trip going down the steps with the water. Okay, well, assuming I just, face planted,
Yes.
we have to go get more water then.
Yes. Oh yeah, if you fall, even a drop can cost you, in something like this. It was a really strange choice for them to be so far behind. They know they're not walking the best. Why would you choose the physical task here? I really would like to know why they chose it. I honestly think the puzzle would have been better unless they were just so, I don't know, they had almost heat stroke and they couldn't think. So they just wanted to do something where they know they would get it done. But man, that puzzle was so easy. I just, and it's like they were so close to each other. It's like, why couldn't you have just saw that? Look, here's the other one. It's way easier.
Right.
I don't get that.
It boggled my mind. It absolutely the fact that Marcus and Michael did it too it boggled my mind. Like, at least it made sense.
Yes, they had a lead. They could,
and they're military men, so they're used to doing something more physical. But even still, after like 5 minutes, in typical Amazing Race fashion, after 5 minutes, you go, screw this. We're not doing this one. I don't care where the other one is. We're doing the other one. You make an executive decision and you go with that. Like, it just made me shake my head and go, okay, and laugh at you because you're going to finish last, and you're going to finish last.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it was just a really bad choice, and I'm eating crow this week because I was defending them last week. I
Yeah,
thought, well, maybe they get the whatever they had out of their system, but I mean, Linton shouldn't have been doing 4 roadblocks. I mean,
no,
Shariq's got to do something. That
right.
would have been the easy roadblock for her to do. They just didn't do it, and it really costed them. So I think they were a cumulative effect of them just not, just falling off. The wheels fell off, and they didn't come back, and it was horrible for them. So I'm eating crow for even defending them last week. They just proved your guys' point this week. They were awful again, 2 in a row, 2 in a row. So yeah, there's that. So let's go through the standings then to the pit stop. The pit stop for this week. The pit stop was in the Great Temple.
Yep.
So teams obviously had to find that. There was a few that did ask for it. So that's why I wanted to make sure I brought that up. But
Which some were like, the Great Temple's behind you.
yeah.
What?
They tried to make it seem like David and Aubrey had no clue, but
Yeah.
obviously they were decently far ahead of Linton and Shariq. So,
Right.
so coming in ninth is obviously Linton and Shariq. Any final words about Linton and Shariq? Calvert.
Not surprised. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they almost were gone last week. I
Yeah.
mean, so theoretically, I mean, we don't obviously know what happens week to week. Things can change, but we knew going into this week that they were going to be in trouble, and they just kind
Yeah.
of put the cherry on top of the Sunday. Now Shariq gets her wish. She can
Yes.
she can sleep as much as she wants.
She's happy. She's very happy. She didn't want to be there anyway. So,
Right. Right.
coming in at eighth, and now this is where you guys are kind of eating a little crow, or at least Goldberg is, because he was wondering what I had against this team. Was
Yeah.
Aubrey and David coming in eighth this week? Kind of helped my point there with them
Sure
saying
did.
that they weren't that great of a team, and they really showed. So, what do you got to say about that, Goldberg? But they did figure it out, and they are still alive. So can't count them out. And maybe they're not the team that gets COVID next week. So numbers coming in at 7, moving up a place from last week in the standings is Glenda and Lumumba. They had a decent week, but I mean nothing like a Derek and Claire where you're coming from 7 to 2. But they still do move up, so that's going to help them at least for that part. So
They did, and they made the right decision right away. They went, screw that. We're not doing the camel. We're doing the puzzle. Like
yes,
they looked. I don't even think they touched anything. They looked at it and went, forget that.
yep, yep. So they did at least a little bit, and they did move up. So we'll give them props there. Coming in at 6 this week was Quentin and Maddie. Just they've been just kind of there. Nothing too great, nothing too terrible. 5th place this week was Emily and Molly, taking quite a bit of a dive for them, down 4 spots. For a task that I thought that would have been in their wheelhouse, but apparently not. Coming in at 4th this week was Abby and Will, and they moved down 1 spot. Coming in at 3rd is Marcus and Michael. They moved down 1 spot just for choosing the wrong task. Coming in at 2nd and probably having the biggest jump, and they did have the biggest jump this week, is Derek and Claire from 7th to 2nd. And then coming in at 1st this week, which was the first time this team has won a leg, is Luis and
Let's go.
Michelle. They had a really solid week. I mean, Luis, he was the one who did the roadblock this week, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, and he found that Petra sign right
Almost
away.
instantaneously.
I mean, yeah. I mean that was huge, and they aced the puzzle too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
got to give them credit there. So yeah. Overall, Calvert, we'll let you start with the what would you rank the episode?
I'd give it a 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I think that's my lowest score, I believe. I should actually listen to my podcast. I think it was just kind of meh. That's how I kind of led the show off with. That's kind of how the episode was. It was meh. Cool. Somebody got eliminated. All right, that's a good start. Like, but it was really, really simple, or for Amazing Race terms.
Super simple. The only cool thing I would say was the train ride, and that wasn't even a part of the race.
Which they handed them the clue, which that was kind of cool.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, I agree. I don't know. It was like a very low energy episode. So I'm going to give it a 5, just a little bit better. The only reason I'm giving it a 5 was because this is the first time they've ever been to Jordan. And that's being generous, but a very low energy, not much great landscapes. I mean, some of the temples were cool, just a lot of desert and a lot of, I don't know, just very not so creative tasks. Just there was, I don't want to say boring. It's not boring when you're trying to find, see a race happen, but just, I don't know. It just wasn't that exciting to me. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, 5 for me.
Fair enough.
So, all right. Yeah, 5. So let's go through our power rankings here. We are now down to 8 teams. Yeah, Calvert, why don't you start with your 8th place team?
So you just read the standings. My power rankings are pretty much going to reflect that. And they played Aubrey and David. I mean, the fact that it took them even more than one try to finish the puzzle was just shake my head, face palm to head. Just crazy to me. I don't understand it. I didn't understand it then. They're probably still standing there trying to figure it out, but luckily they've been eliminated. So they're my A team, Aubrey and David, and like they're like Quentin and Maddie in the way that they get camera time too, but I don't understand why they do.
Yeah,
reasons like they don't do anything to me. Like I'm thus far this season, So
yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going with them as my number 8 team. They're just kind of there. They shown signs at doing all right. I mean, David did well on the Bucati, putting that together, but that was like basically his profession. Anything else they've really done, it's been, I don't know, it's been not smooth. I'll just say that they haven't really excelled at anything. They're definitely my 8th place team. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for them lasting long. So, Calvert, you're number 7.
My number 7 team is Glendon and La Bamba. Like, their saving grace is the fact that they changed tasks right away, that they decided to do the puzzle as opposed to in the camo. That's the only reason why they're 7. La Bamba did struggle with the metal detector, which I don't understand how anybody struggled with that, but he can keep passing the can off thinking that it's what they're supposed to be finding, but it's not. So they're 7 for me. They're which is a dip for me from last week to this week, but yeah, it's not looking good for Glenda and La Bamba. So
yeah, well, my 7th place team is going to surprise probably all of you, and I actually got Emily and Molly here.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to ask you a question because of this. If you look at all the other teams and then you look at Emily and Molly, do you feel confident in them, like in any physical challenge?
No, which is why, and I do remember this part because I said this last week during the podcast. See, I do listen to the podcast. I did say that if they had to do a physical challenge against Marcus and Michael, they would struggle. Now, granted, they made the right choice by doing the puzzle, but let's say that at the time that the puzzles were all filled, and they had to do that, right? Because that happens, right? There's only so many spots that are given for each task. So let's say they would have gotten there and they would have had done. I have no confidence whatsoever that they would have been able to finish the camel task. None.
No
confidence whatsoever.
Or it'd be very slowly.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, one of their saving graces for next week is that it's going to be a self-driving.
Yep.
I'm assuming it's going to be a self-drive task because of the fact that we're probably staying in Jordan next week. But
We are. I'll ruin the preview a little bit. We are.
okay. But I don't feel confident about this team, and I was not riding that wagon. Now I think I did put them at 2, but I was not on the. I was definitely not going to put them at 1. Let's just put it that way. And if I'm doing it now, I think this is the beginning of their downfall. I don't know if they're going to rise up from this. So I mean, I could be proven wrong, but as of right now, I'm looking at it. They're my 7th place team. So
I'm not quite there with them yet, but that's a fair point. Like, I think that there are 2 teams that are worse than them, right? In Glenda and Labumba and Berger and David Nabry.
Sure, no, I can see it. I can see it.
I mean, you're right. Like, it's going to they're going to have to do something physical at some point. So we'll see how they do.
Who is your sixth place team?
My 6th place team is Quentin and Maddie. If you're starting to see a trend and you heard the rankings of how they finished, this is how my power rankings are going this week. They really didn't do anything special this week. They really haven't done special other than getting lost in the second episode. They really haven't done much. I mean, which is okay. Like, they're fine, but they're not getting a lot of TV time, as we talked about, and they're just kind of there.
Yeah. My 6th place team. I'm actually going to put Quentin and Maddie too. I actually kind of feel like they have some upside though, whereas Emily and Molly, to me, don't have a lot of upside. I don't know why, but I don't know. I think Quentin and Maddie at 6, only because they keep taking these low spots. I mean, they did have a 3rd place finish, but they've also had a 10th place finish. But they're hanging around, so I'm putting them at 6 just because. But they definitely could go up, in my opinion. So, who's your 5th place team?
My 5th place team is Emily and Molly. Now, last week I did have them at 1. Power ranking changed from week to week, so they finished 5th. That's where I have them. I'm not as concerned. Luckily, this isn't my team. I'm not as concerned, but they didn't have that great of a week. Like, they finished 5th. This was an easy episode for them to take another 1st place finish and continue the dominance. They took a small step back. I don't know if that's a trend, but for one episode and for 1 week, I got them at 5th. I'm not too terribly concerned yet for them, but they're my 5th place team.
My 5th place team is going to be Glenda and Lumumba. The reasons why, because I thought they did pretty well with that verse. They had a really bad start to that 3rd leg, but they did climb up in the part 2 of the 3rd leg, and they finished 8th. And they also climbed up 1 spot this week to 7th. So I got them at 5th. I do feel a little bit better. They're very positive, which is a good sign. So I don't know. I felt good about them this week, even though they took 7th. But I'm going to put them as my 5th place team. Calvert, you're number 4.
My number 4th place team is your team, Abby and Will. They're just they're there. Like, if they can get a team to stumble, maybe they finish in the top 2. I don't see for them right now, but for right now, they're number 4, relative to where I had them last week. So,
yeah. I also have them as number 4. They're not doing anything bad, but they're not doing anything extraordinary. They're not taking advantage. They did struggle, or at least Abby struggled a little bit with the metal detector challenge, but they did the puzzle pretty well. So they did make up some spots there. Yeah, I got them as 4. I think they could easily make the top 3. They could be in the final leg, but they could also get eliminated. 5 5 or higher. I would say. I think they're better than probably a few of the bottom teams. But yeah, I think 4 is a solid spot for them because they haven't really shown that they can win a leg yet. So I got them at 4. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Marcus and Michael, but this with an asterisk. It's a small asterisk, but it's still an asterisk. The fact that they did the camel challenge is still mind-boggling to me. Like, okay, just because you can do the physical challenge and you guys are physical, doesn't mean you have to. Like, this is just a team that, they start out red hot, kind of like a football team where they start out red hot. Oh, look, we're 7-0, 8, 6-1. We're really, really good. And then you're sitting there in December going, we have to win the next 2 games to try and make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And what happened? So like this is the thing. Like they've done the physical challenges, but I go back to the log challenge where they struggled with that. They struggled this week with the challenge. Now, luckily they had a big enough lead that it didn't really cost them, but I'm concerned for them. They could be eliminated. I think they could, just like Abby and Will, they could also win this thing. Like it's that helter skelter with them for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not my rankings. I agree, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. My number 3. This is really hard because I'm not that high on Derek and Claire. Like, especially when Derek face planted this past week, I was laughing quite a bit. I have Luis and Michelle here at 3. They are in my top 3 this week. Obviously, you win a leg, but I'm not like 100% sold on them. I think Luis is clearly the MVP of this team. There's no question. Michelle, she doesn't do anything wrong. It's just I got to see more from them. But they had a really strong week, and it was very close. I'm literally looking at their standings, and it's almost like a coin flip between my 2 and 3. But I got Luis and Michelle at 3. But they easily could be my number 2. It was a tough choice. Calvert, you're number 2.
My number 2 is Derek and Claire, which, yes, I crushed them last week, and rightfully so. I deserved to crush them because they didn't have a very good week. But also been kind of consistent where they've been in the upper echelon so far this season. So I got them at 2. Do I think they can win the whole thing? Maybe. Do I think Derek would faceplant as he was trying to get to the mat to win the entire thing? Yes, I do. Or say something stupid? Yes, I do. Or not be able to find something that is the size of Texas and knowing that it's behind you? Sure do. Sure think that's possible. But they are consistent. Like, they have a relatively bad week, then they have a relatively good week. It's kind of like a yo-yo. So for Goldberg's sake, I have Derek and Claire at 2.
All right. Yeah, I have Derek and Claire at 2 as well. I crushed them last week as well. I wanted to put them at 3, but I can't. But they're definitely not my 1 at this point. I don't think they're the best. I moved them up. I don't feel confident about where they're at. But I got them at 2. I think they had. I mean, this was an easy. I think this was an easy leg. All the way around, I would say this was an easier leg. So I'm not really impressed with Derek and Claire did, but I'm not going to put them at 1. I obviously my 1 is, but Derek and Claire, they're my number 2. So we'll see what happens. The cringy comments are still going to come. Claire's still going to struggle probably. So I'm not feeling good about them at all at 2, but it is what it is. I got to put somebody there. So Calvert, you're number 1.
Means I have a new number 1. Shocking. It's my team, Luis and Michelle. I know. I was surprised too. They're 1. And Hurls is exactly right. Luis is carrying this team. Now, I'm also going to preview into what's going to happen next week. They should go back to back. They've won money now. So judging by off of the preview of what I'm about to read to you guys in about the next 5 to 10 minutes, they should finish one next week as well. So we'll see. They haven't done anything wrong outside of driving, which scares me, especially when Luis is driving. But outside of them having to actually drive to the tasks,
Yeah.
they're consistent. They really are. So
yep, they had a really good week. My number one is Marcus and Michael. They're the most consistent. Yeah, they chose the wrong detour, but they still took third. I like where they're headed. I don't think they had a bad week at all, really. They're still, to me, they're still the most consistent racers. They're the fastest. They're still running a really solid race, and I can't put them down. I'm not going to bring them down from when I had them last week. I think, yeah, they went from second to third, but I still think consistency is king here.
Sure.
And they, to me, passed the eye test, and they're my number one. So that's why I got Marcus and Michael. They're staying at one for me. So, all right, Calvert. Now this is going to be a good segment. Why don't you tell us where we're going next week and what we're doing?
So the name of the episode is Step by Step. We're staying in Jordan. So a shocking elimination takes place. While teams continue their Jordanian journey, teams take part in a traditional folk dance. That's why I have Luis and Michelle continuing at 1. And learn the Arabic alphabet. So that's your preview.
Okay.
Your preview for tomorrow. So.
Yeah, the dancing's obviously going to benefit Quentin and Maddie. Probably David and Aubrey, because I believe Aubrey is a dancer
Correct.
too,
Yep.
or had a background in dancing, and probably Luis and Michelle as well. But this is where I'm a little angry. A shocking elimination. That is something we did not want to hear. After last season with the, losing a ton of teams. I just I understand it. I understand it, but I mean I don't know. I think that sucks. I really do. Like, are we gonna see it at the beginning of the episode that one team's? I don't know when they get tested. Do they get tested at the beginning? I'm guessing they do. But man, does that suck.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, because at least with last year, our teams chose not to come back.
Correct.
This season, they're getting eliminated internationally by phone. Basically, it was what it. If we're to believe the preview of what, because Phil looks like he's FaceTiming with the team. I'm guessing. That's just my guess. I don't know anything, but that's just my guess, just judging by what I've seen. So
wow. So maybe in the hotel,
possibly.
they were okay. They had to test before they come out of the hotel.
Right.
Well, that really sucks. You get COVID on the race, and wow, that's awful. Man, I'm feeling bad for whoever it is. Do we have any clue who this could be? Like, from this past episode, was there any way to tell who is not feeling good?
I couldn't tell from anything.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, it's hard to judge, and it's gonna suck because we're in the same boat that we were in last year in that, like, and especially if it's one of our teams.
Yeah, we're gonna be bitter
because our team got eliminated based off of a positive COVID test.
Yes.
And then what?
Yes.
So what? Then you have to you take the private jet home. Then is that how this works?
Yeah, I guess so.
And then do they? And then I can't imagine they would do this. Do you think they bring a team back like they did last year?
I mean, you still got Litton and Sharik right there, right?
True.
You probably just bring them back, I'm guessing. Yeah, I could see that because I honestly could see it. I wouldn't doubt it. So now is this gonna happen right at the beginning? Because I think it would, right?
I would imagine so.
Okay.
It's hard to judge on the preview because it's one of the last things that's said
Yeah.
or they fade to black in the credits. So
Yeah.
I would assume that it happens right at the beginning of the episode because that would make the most sense.
Yeah. So then who did we see in the preview? What teams did we see doing the tasks? Did we see any teams?
That's a good thought. I
mean, I can get it ready here, but it may
got
take me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, do they bring Linton and Sharik back in? And they get another chance. I just, man, what is COVID now at 5 days where you have to? It's 5 days now, right?
correct. Yeah.
It's a lot shorter than it was, where you have to basically quarantine.
Well, right, and that's the thing too. And obviously, because they were going to travel internationally, I can't imagine. Because I mean, you can, look, neither one of us are doctors, but like, everybody probably had to get boosted. They probably had to get a shot, right? Because they're traveling internationally. So, I mean, it's just going to suck because, and especially if it's one of the upper echelon teams, like once again, they could have won the entire thing.
Yes. I mean, this, I mean, and then the fact that they're so close to all
Right.
the other teams,
Right.
like this could just derail it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about it. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're supposed to do or if they can do anything about it, but it just really sucks. So I'm getting to the end of the episode here, waiting to
to tell them
get
that they're right,
to
that they
yeah.
tested.
Here we go. Okay.
Good.
So all right, here we go. Here is the preview. So it looks like we see Luis and Michelle doing the task. We see Derek and Claire. We see Emily and Molly, Marcus and Michael. We see David and Aubrey. Who is that in the background there? Who's the Lumumba? Looks like we see Lumumba.
Yep, I was gonna say I remember seeing.
Wow. Okay, so it might be my team. and that would explain why they're not getting any screen time, right? Because they're just like, well, they're eliminated anyway. They're getting COVID, so wow. Yeah, I did not see Abby and Will. Does it mean 100% that they're going to be the team? No, but the fact that you don't see them out there, yeah, doesn't bode well. But it also could be at the end of the episode too, which would totally throw throw it out the window at that point. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But the intrigue is definitely there. But it's gonna suck however they do it.
Could you imagine this out loud? Let's say they do. Let's say they don't do it. They don't do the test in the way that we think. Let's say they do the test and then they test. Right. So you've completed the task, and then hey, you tested positive for COVID. See you later.
That could be too. They could do it after a roadblock or a detour. We have no idea when it's gonna happen. So, yeah, that could be really bad. Either way, either way, we're gonna find out tomorrow, and I'm not liking it though. I'm definitely not liking it. And it's just crazy I wonder who they got COVID from. Suppose they could have gotten anywhere, Florence or wherever. So
Sure.
So, all right, well, that'll do it. for this week. Calvert, any final comments?
Hopefully tomorrow's episode will be better than last week's, but we'll see.
And my final comment is, I just hope it's not my team that has COVID. I just want them to have a chance to finish the whole dang thing, because my team got interrupted last year. So it's going to be very annoying if that happens twice in a row. So Yep. Is what it is, though. So, all right. We will see you next time.
Have a good night,
Good
everybody.
night. Yep.